Yeah, you know that clip, the meme, the Punisher, John Bernthal, when he's in the chair and he's kind of looking around all frantic, he's got his eyes bugged out and he just starts wailing, no, 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 no. That's kind of what I'm feeling right here. Because when I saw this article, when I saw this idea get presented on my timeline, I was like, oh, darn it. Darn it, we have to make a video about that. Let's talk about this piece published by Stu Cowan on the Montreal Gazette from 2 days ago, October 25. Stu's slap shots. The Canadiens need the swagger of the sheriff to come back. Trade winds are already blowing, and Arber Xhekaj's name is mentioned after being made a healthy scratch for consecutive games by Martin St. Louis. Now, in the previous video, we did talk about the idea as to whether or not Xhekaj and St. Louis may have beef of some sort. Like, the way Martin St. Louis was talking about Xhekaj in the media kind of got some people's heads turning because Marty rarely talks about players in as blunt and as demanding in the ways that he talks about Arber Xhekaj. He has to be better, he has to be this, he's not a rookie anymore. Plus, you take a look at the fact that Xhekaj was apparently really pissed off that he got scratched 2 games in a row, as noted by some of the people that were watching Canadiens practice. It kind of got heads turning, and we made that video yesterday. Okay, great. Xhekaj had the opportunity to redeem himself in the St. Louis Blues game because St. Louis finally put him in, and based off of what St. Louis said, that's exactly what Xhekaj did. I thought it was excellent throughout the game. The stuff that we talked about that kept him out of the lineup, I felt like tonight he was very engaged in applying everything that we've been working on and talking with, so I'm happy for him. Alright, there you go. That's kind of disputing that narrative that people had been bringing up and that we made a video about yesterday. So obviously it's great to see more positive things coming out of the Canadiens and their systems, right? But if we dive into this article, oh boy, this article. Of course, it's from before the St. Louis Blues game yesterday. So it comes at it from a perspective that we had been sort of bringing up on the past few days here. Arber Xhekaj, whether or not he could get traded, whatever. Let's dive into what Stu Cowan writes about. The Montreal Canadiens need the 6'4", 240-pound Xhekaj to be the sheriff again, playing with confidence and physicality, and not so afraid to make mistakes. That can be difficult with the short leash Xhekaj seems to be getting from St. Louis compared to the other players. It should also be noted that St. Louis is not a big fan of the sheriff nickname. I don't know. You guys call him the sheriff, St. Louis told the media last season about Xhekaj. I don't think any of us call him the sheriff. And okay, look, I can understand where he's coming from with that. Because you think about it, why do Habs fans call him the sheriff? Because he's a guy that can physically police the game. That's literally the wordplay there. He's a player who is really good at hitting, he's really good at fighting, he's got such a physical presence and an edge to his game that if somebody does something that is unjust, if Jacob Trouba goes out there and hits Justin Barron in a bad way, you know if the sheriff is in town, if he's in the lineup, he's going to do his best to go out there and make things right. He's the sheriff because he polices the game. And I guess for St. Louis, there's an idea of, yeah, we don't want to promote that kind of attitude in our locker room. We don't want to think of this guy and his value as to only being limited to just being a brute. Like, oh, his job is to go out there and hurt people. There are qualities that make Arber Xhekaj an NHL caliber defenseman, like his physical frame, like his shot, like some of the plays that he can make when he's not focused on just hitting the crap out of guys. So I guess from Martin St. Louis' perspective, he wants to focus more so on the player as a whole, and I guess that sheriff nickname doesn't really align with that. Anyways, let's dive into some of the other ideas that Stu Cowan writes about in here, because it gets kind of interesting. Cowan writes about the trade wins and how former Canadiens George Laraque would not be surprised if the Habs traded Xhekaj. There are teams that are interested in his services, and if they get him, he won't be coming out of the lineup like he does in Montreal. Xhekaj knows this, and so does his agent. The Canadiens will eventually trade him. We had spoken about that in another video a few days ago. Xhekaj changed agents this summer, hiring Scott Bartlett of Bartlett Agency before signing a new 2-year deal worth $2.6 million. Xhekaj also helped Laraque this summer at the former NHLers Youth Hockey Clinic that is a part of the NHL and NHLPA's First Shift program. A team that would almost be certainly interested in Xhekaj is Ottawa. Senators owner Michael Andlauer is a big Xhekaj fan after the defenseman helped lead the Hamilton Bulldogs to the 2022 OHL Championship. Andlauer still owns the Bulldogs, who had moved to Brantford last season. Xhekaj's brother, Florian, played for the Bulldogs the last 2 years before joining the Rocket this season in Laval. Oh boy. Could the Ottawa Senators be a team that is trying to make a pitch to get Arber Xhekaj? This is one of those things where you think about, like, franchise owners tampering, guys that are above the GM, the president. When you got the owners potentially being in a spot to make deals here, firstly, the GM has no say. Like, if the owner wants something, if he's demanding something, if he's like, hey, I want to trade for that guy, you have no choice but to listen. Like, come on, the guy employs you. The guy owns your job, pretty much. Maybe I'm speaking from a defeatist point of view because I had been seeing Vancouver, Jim Benning, and Francesco Aquilini do their business over the past 7 years, but realistically, if there's already a big affinity for Michael Andlauer, if he's like, hey, Xhekaj and his brother Xhekaj have been a really big part of my Hamilton Bulldogs. My OHL team had a big boost from these players, and now you're saying that Arber Xhekaj could be on the trade block? You're saying that Montreal might not use this guy? You know who's going to use him? Us! We could have Brady Tkachuk, Ridley Gregg, and Arber Xhekaj on the team in the lineup every single night, making our opponents' lives a living hell. And that sounds like a great idea for Michael Andlauer, who has had experience with this player in the past. Obviously, I'm just kind of putting words in people's mouths. I'm just talking about the idea here. But if you wanted to dive into what the Ottawa Senators have built the past few years here, even with some of the free agent acquisitions, I mean, they acquired David Perron this previous year. That guy, total crap disturber. Just imagine how gosh darn annoying and painful it might be to eventually play against the Ottawa Senators if they were to acquire a guy like Xhekaj. Not to mention the entire angle of the Canadiens in the sense being divisional rivals and there always being some sort of a physical thing. I mean, we had spoken about this in the preseason game with Xhekaj and Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle and everybody getting hurt and everybody, you know, just kind of going after each other. That's bad blood. That's crazy. Are you saying that Ottawa might be interested in getting one of the main contributors to that bad blood and bringing him over to the dark side? No, I am your father. That sounds like Star Wars crap, honestly. Just, the narratives. It's like Ryan Reeves, man. It's like Pat Maroon. It's like these guys going out there and changing teams, and all of a sudden you're buddy friends with Brady Tkachuk, whom you've butted heads with in the past. All of a sudden David Perron is your best friend and you're on the same side as Ridley Gregg. Imagine the Montreal Canadiens when they play off against Arber Xhekaj, and they've got Florian Xhekaj still chilling in the prospect system. Maybe Florian gets a game or two at the end of the year, and Xhekaj face off against each other. Like, the narratives would be insane. But obviously, it would depend on whether or not the Canadiens would be actually interested in making some sort of a trade like this and what the Ottawa Senators would be willing to offer. I will say as well, if Montreal is fielding offers from teams around the league, it does seem like there would be more than just Atlantic teams interested in Xhekaj. You know, I'm just making an assumption there. I don't think that every team in the Atlantic Division is going up there saying, hey, I want that guy. There are probably teams from other divisions, so I would think it would be in Kent Hughes' best interest to trade Xhekaj away to some team that they're not going to play every other weekend. But if Ottawa decides, hey, we really want this guy, let's give you a first or a prospect that's really valuable, and then we can get Xhekaj onto our team, then who knows what Kent Hughes' response to that is going to be. I will say this, though, that's a really great return on investment, because as a free agent signing that was undrafted, Arber Xhekaj technically came into the NHL with zero value at all. Like a random OHL signee, a guy who had worked at Costco during the pandemic. That guy is not supposed to be an NHL player just 3 years later. Or at least, he's not supposed to be. Arber Xhekaj was. So turning a free agent signee into anything that is draft related or draft pick related, then okay, that's some pretty good value there. Anyways, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the idea of the Ottawa Senators being interested in Arber Xhekaj? And do you agree with Stu Cowan's assessment here on the Montreal Gazette? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on. And bye.